If women are already burnt out from carrying 80% of the household tasks on top of the load we carry at work, how could we possibly find room for one more thing? For exercise, for healthier food choices, for making sure we get enough protein on a daily basis.
Louise Hazel is an Olympian and a gold medal winning heptathlete.
She's the CEO of Slay, a women's lifestyle brand which is home to a gym, clothing, and run club.
Women's fitness.
Put yourself first.
Slay.
Now, of course we're going to gain weight. Of course we're going to let ourselves go. We've been trained to prioritize everybody else's needs above our own. If the household tasks don't get done, the house crumbles. And somehow that's a reflection on our capabilities as wives, mothers, and homemakers. But if we're crumbling, well, that's just another Tuesday. You're not lazy. You don't lack discipline. The truth is so much more nuanced than that. So keep listening. A life worth living is doing everything you can to change the lives of others for the better. These were the words that jumped off of the page of a book that I've been reading recently. And I couldn't help but wonder, if we're doing everything to change the lives of others, what is the cost of that work? How much can one woman really carry before she drops everything, including herself? There I was, fresh from a fascinating conversation with New York Times best-selling author Eve Rodsky about her book Fair Play, when it hit me like a brick wall. Eve had articulated something so profound, yet so painfully obvious. In heterosexual couples, women typically shoulder up to 80% of their unpaid household labour. 80%. Eve identified 60 household tasks that the average couple has to complete, with an additional 40 tasks if you have children. After our 90-minute conversation, I couldn't help but wonder, if we're already carrying up to 100 household tasks, how many more can we realistically manage before it all becomes too much? And what happens when we try to add fitness goals to that already overflowing plate? Let me tell you about a little domestic drama that unfolded in my own home a few weeks ago. After returning from a 2-week work trip in the Caribbean, yes, I know, it's a tough life, I jumped back into work for 5 days straight before I hit a brick wall. I was exhausted. I needed rest, but there was one problem. I hadn't been grocery shopping. So I asked my husband to go to the store. I explained to him that I was so pooped that I didn't even have the capacity to think. I was just wiped out and I just needed to lay down. I was truly spent. Simple request, right? Wrong. I'm happy to go, he said, but all I need is a shopping list. I stared at him. I was baffled. We shop at the same stores for the same items every single week. And didn't I just tell him that I was too exhausted to think? When I suggested that he check our previous shopping lists on his phone or look into the cupboards to see what we needed, he quickly grew frustrated. As he resentfully left for the store, he pre-warned me not to blame him if he returned with the wrong things. Now, an hour later, he returned with, I kid you not, 1 grocery bag, 1 bag. Now, in the 6 years of our marriage, our weekly groceries had never fit into a single bag. What a piece of work, I thought as I collapsed back into my pillow. I didn't have the energy to fight. I just knew that I'd be making a trip to the store this week regardless. But for now, at least, it was one less thing to think about. It wasn't until my conversation with Eve that I understood what had happened. You see, in our household, I bear what Eve calls the cognitive load for the groceries. I'm the one who notices what's running low, who keeps a mental inventory, who plans the meals, who drives us to the store. Within 10 minutes, Eve had provided a solution she calls the minimum standard of care. The problem wasn't that my husband wouldn't go shopping. It was that we hadn't communicated what the minimum acceptable outcome would be. For him, when it comes to the groceries, the standard should be, when in doubt, buy it anyway. Simple as that. You see, Eve helped me see that my resentment stemmed from still carrying the mental and emotional load for a favour that I requested while I was exhausted. I was doing the thinking even when I wasn't doing the physical work. And that's when it hit me. If women are already burnt out from carrying 80% of the household tasks on top of the load we carry at work, how could we possibly find room for one more thing? For exercise, for healthier food choices, for making sure we get enough protein on a daily basis. All of these things are the types of things I ask my clients at Slay for every single day. Now, of course, we're going to gain weight. Of course, we're going to let ourselves go. We've been trained to prioritize everybody else's needs above our own. If the household tasks don't get done, the house crumbles. And somehow that's a reflection on our capabilities as wives, mothers, and homemakers. But if we're crumbling, well, that's just another Tuesday. I couldn't help but wonder, what if we flipped the script? What if instead of treating our homes as our most important organisations, as Eve suggests in her book Fair Play, what if we treated ourselves as our most important organisation? Last week, I was at a friend's birthday dinner. I asked one of the guests, a really amazing woman who's devoted to helping others. I asked her, what's the first thing you do every morning? And she said, I empty the dishwasher. She then added a sigh and was like, just thinking about it makes me feel depressed. And I said, why the dishwasher? She says, well, if I don't empty it, then the whole house falls apart. But what if before emptying the dishwasher, she moved her body for 30 minutes? What if she dusted off that Peloton or simply walked around the neighbourhood? What would happen then? Deep down, she knows she'd still get all of the household stuff done. It's what she does. It's what she's always done. She's always prioritised everyone and everything over herself. Now, notice I said over herself, not before herself, because before herself would imply that she's been giving herself the same amount of time and effort that she gives everyone and everything else. And that's not true. It's never been true. In fact, she's so used to operating with this empty battery that she's forgotten how long it's been since she last felt good. And I don't mean okay, I mean really good for a sustained period of time. And no, vacations don't count. I'm talking about day-to-day good. Now, if this sounds like you and you feel like you've let yourself go, then you're not lazy, you don't lack discipline, and you're not failing. The truth is so much more nuanced than that. So keep listening. I'm Louise Hazel, Olympian, fitness expert and CEO of Slay. Welcome back to another episode of the Slay podcast, the Centre of Excellence for Women's Health, Fitness and Life. And today we're going to dive into why high-achieving women lose their habits and how to get them back again. High-achieving women often experience what I call success sacrifice. We pour so much energy into our professional achievements and upholding our household standards that something has to give. And usually that something is our self-care. Now, for the sake of this episode, when I refer to professional work, I want you to include your household work into this category too. Just because it's unpaid labour and it's invisible, it doesn't mean that you don't show up with the same level of energy as your career work. So I experienced this firsthand last year with my own work. I was completely in the zone professionally, problem solving, creating, leading, but my weekly workout routine dropped from 6 days to 2. My meal prep Sundays became order in Sundays, and my evening ritual became binge watching reality TV. It was unglamorous, unfocused, and unproductive. Now, the irony is that as a high achiever, we're usually masters of discipline and routine in our professional lives. We track metrics, we set deadlines, we follow systems, and we hold ourselves accountable. But somehow, we sometimes fail to apply these same skills to our personal wellness and well-being. So why does this happen? I've identified 3 main reasons. First of all, the professional-personal imbalance. When we repeatedly prioritize work and household demands over personal needs, we create a habit loop that's hard to break. Our brain gets wired to respond to work inside and outside of the home with urgency, while personal care feels optional. Secondly, perfectionism paralysis. Many high-achieving women operate with an all-or-nothing mentality. If we can't commit to the perfect 60-minute workout, we'll do nothing. If we can't prepare the ideal nutritious meal, we'll grab whatever's convenient. This perfectionism can keep you stuck, stagnant, and kill your progress. And lastly, identity disconnect. This is a big one. We build our identity around achievement, results, and external validation. So personal habits don't always provide that immediate feedback loop of recognition and achievement. They're quiet. They're private commitments that don't come with promotions, a praise, or a whopping great round of applause. Like literally nobody is clapping for you at the end of your 1-mile run. Understanding these patterns is crucial because it helps us to approach habit rebuilding with compassion rather than criticism. The goal isn't to fix yourself because you're not broken. The goal is to realign our daily choices with our whole selves, not just our professional identities. So how do we go about realigning ourselves? Well, the answer comes down to one thing and one thing only: our habits. Why do habits matter so much, especially for high performers like us? When we understand the science behind habits, we can work with our brain's natural tendencies instead of fighting against them. We can jump into flow mode instead of fighting against the tide. We can accomplish more with less effort. At their core, habits are automated behaviors that happen with minimal conscious thought. They're your brain's way of conserving energy. Now, research shows that around about 40 to 45% of what we do every single day isn't actually decisions we're making, they're habits playing out automatically. This is why habits are so powerful. They create the foundation of your life while operating in the background. They're like the operating system of your day, running silently, but determining how everything else functions. So for high-achieving women, understanding habit science gives us a competitive edge in personal development, just like we have in our careers. Here are 3 key insights from habit science that changed my personal approach recently. First of all, the habit loop. So every habit consists of 3 parts: a cue that triggers the behavior, the routine itself, and the reward that reinforces it. When we feel overwhelmed by the work, the cue, we might skip our workout, the routine, to gain more work time, the perceived reward. Understanding these loops is the first step to changing them. Second, habit stacking. Our brain forms connections more easily when we link a new habit to an existing one. This is why after brushing my teeth, I'll meditate for 2 minutes. Works better than I will meditate daily. Third, our environment design. Our surroundings trigger our behaviors far more than willpower. So if your running shoes are in the back of your closet, you're less likely to go for that morning run than if they're sitting by the foot of your bed or right by the front door. See, the most fascinating thing about habits is they create compound returns, small, consistent actions, both positive and negative, that accumulate over time. So creating neither an upward spiral or a downward spiral in our well-being. Now, when work takes over, our personal habits are usually the first to suffer. We slip into survival mode, focusing only on what's urgent rather than what's important for our long-term well-being. This is why so many high-achieving women find themselves burnt out or feeling like they've let themselves go despite their success. The good news? Once you understand habit mechanics, you can deliberately design your life instead of just reacting to its demands. You can create systems that support your whole self, not just your professional self. So I've been experimenting with this concept recently myself. Before my conversation with Eve, before I left for my Caribbean trip, I was calculated that I spent about 8 hours each week on household tasks and 7 hours on self-care. Not terrible, but not equal by any means, given that my current goal is to get in shape for my 40th birthday, not having a clean and tidy home by the time I turn 40. So I decided to make some lifestyle changes. Whilst in the Caribbean, I had the luxury of more free time. And in the mornings after my body weight sculpt class, I was able to take a daily yoga class, something that I'd never get to do at home because my first personal training clients arrive at 6 a.m. But within days of practicing yoga, I felt my back pain dissipate, my hips felt open, my mind felt clearer, and I was able to progress quickly from a beginner level yogi to slightly advanced in just a couple of weeks. I was thriving and keen to implement as many of the habits that I'd adopted in my routine back here in LA. Now, I knew there was no way I'd be able to attend to 60 minutes of yoga each day, but the thing that I could bring home from the trip was the habit of serving my body first before serving others. And the results were game-changing. I lost body fat, I had more energy, I was happier, and I even started cooking at home. So what habits actually matter the most for high-achieving women who want to reclaim their personal wellness? Now, after years of working with ambitious women and experiencing this myself, I've identified 3 core habits that create the biggest impact on your lifestyle with the smallest effort. First up, sleep. How much quality sleep you get matters. The most successful people I know have got great bedtime habits. They savor their sleep at all costs. You don't need to have like a 12-step bedtime routine. You must simply learn to commit to it. The golden key to setting up your day up for success is before it even starts, is to make sure that you get 8 hours of sleep. And if you need 9 hours, get 9 hours. When I rebuilt my own habits, I started to go to bed at night at like 8:45 p.m. Now, at first, it felt a little bit silly, but I was not at all surprised when I woke up 1 minute before my alarm went off at 4:45. Then I recalled the countless times my body was trying to tell me to go to bed when I'd fall asleep on the sofa at 8:30. Now, I shared this first habit with one of my clients the other morning, and she told me that she can survive on 7 hours of sleep. And I was like, yeah, bud, can't we all? But remember, the goal is not to survive. The goal is to find the amount of sleep that makes you thrive. Next up, exercise. How you start your day matters tremendously. The most successful women I know protect the first 30 minutes of their day fiercely. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to have a completely elaborate 2-hour routine. It means creating an intentional movement before diving into reaction mode. The key is to start your day proactive rather than reactive by simply exercising for a minimum of 30 minutes. When I rebuilt my own habits, I started with just 40 minutes of exercise. Now, it's a non-negotiable. No emails, no social media, no responding to others until I've centered myself and reconnected with my body first. At first, it was hard for me to limit myself to just 40 minutes because I was used to having 90 minutes every afternoon. The problem was those 90-minute workouts were less focused, less intense, and often they just wouldn't even happen at all, depending on what urgent task had come up that day. I'm now getting over 300 minutes of exercise a week consistently, rather than hit or miss a couple of hours. Now remember, consistency trumps duration. An intense 30-minute daily exercise practice delivers far more benefits than an occasional and optional 90-minute workout. By having a 40-minute cutoff time, I'm left wanting more time in the gym each morning, not less. Thirdly, nutrition. High-achieving women need sustainable nutrition approaches, not juice cleanses. The key is to create a simple framework that makes nourishing choices the path of least resistance. The most effective approach is to meal prep once per week and lead with protein-rich meals. Now, when I was rebuilding my nutritional habits, I started with breakfast. I knew that this was crucial to start my day with a high-protein breakfast to eliminate cravings, increase satiety, and keep myself full until lunchtime because I have zero time to prepare a cooked meal because I start my day with every single day with a protein shake that I prepare at the gym in between clients. I mix 2 scoops of protein with almond milk for a meal that provides 48 grams of protein and just 250 calories. Once that became automatic, I extended the same approach to lunch and dinner, where I typically have chicken or salmon or a selection of vegetables. An often overlooked meal is 3 p.m. snack time, where again, I start to get really hungry. So to stave off poor choices, I typically have like a Greek yogurt topped with fresh fruit or honey. And I always end the evening with a little treat, a mini ice cream cone or a bowl of frosted flakes. Now, for those of you who want some more practical daily solutions, why don't you try batch preparing ingredients, not complete meals? This will ensure that you get variety. You could also adopt the protein first rule, starting with each meal, making sure that you eat your protein before moving on to the other foods. You could carry emergency protein, like in your car or your purse. My go-to is like a ready-made protein shake. And also for more strategic convenience, you can identify 3 to 5 healthy order-in options. And don't forget, hydration is really key. Make sure that you consume like 2 tumblers of water every single day. Now that we've covered the essential habits, let's talk implementation. This is where most advice fails. It gives you the what, but not the how. So I'm going to share my momentum method for rebuilding habits when you're already busy and stretched thin. The momentum method has 5 steps. Step 1, identify your keystone habit. A keystone habit is one that creates positive ripple effects across multiple areas of your life. Now, for me, it was morning movement, even just 10 minutes. When I did this consistently, I naturally made better food choices. I had better energy, I slept better, and I felt way more motivated. To identify your keystone habit, ask yourself, what habit, when I do it consistently, makes other positive choices easier? What habit, when neglected, tends to make other areas fall apart too? And what small habit would give me the biggest confidence boost right now? Start with just one keystone habit. This is crucial. High achievers typically try to change everything all at once, which is an absolute recipe for disaster and overwhelm, which is where you are right now. So let's keep it simple. Step 2, Minimize the barrier to entry. Make your new habit ridiculously small and start easy. I'm talking like tiny. So maybe not be 30 minutes of exercise. So maybe not 30 minutes of running, but 15 minutes of walking. Not a complete diet overhaul, but just eating protein at every meal. Not a full meditation practice, but maybe just 3 breaths before checking your emails. The goal is to make the habit so small that it feels almost silly to skip it. This builds consistency, and consistency builds identity and behavior change. Step 3, create environmental triggers. Set up your environment to trigger your new habit automatically. Lay out your workout clothes, put them in the bathroom the night before. Put a bottle of water on your desk as a hydration reminder, or set specific alarms with like habit names. Your environment will either support or sabotage your habits. A strategic setup reduces the need for willpower, which is finite, especially at the end of a long day. Step 4, build in accountability. As high achievers, we are accountable to others all day at work and at home. We need similar structures for our personal habits. So schedule non-negotiable appointments with yourself. Use habit tracking apps or simple journals. Join a challenge or group with similar goals, or create meaningful rewards for milestone consistency. The key is external accountability that matches your personality. Some need public commitment. Others prefer private tracking systems. Now, step 5, practice strategic recovery, not perfection. This is where most habit systems fail. They don't plan for the inevitable life disruptions. Life happens, especially for busy women balancing multiple responsibilities. So their solution is planned recovery strategies. Never miss a day twice. 1 missed day is a break, 2 is a start of a new pattern. Now, the 10-minute backup plan, a simplified version of your habit for the crazy busy days, and also the 1% better mindset, focusing on tiny improvements, not perfection. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. It's building momentum through consistency and resilience. So before we close out today, let's bring this all together with a concrete action plan that you can start today. Choose one keystone habit, make it small and specific, and tie it to an existing part of your routine. Number 2, create a minimum viable version that takes 5 minutes or less. This is your no matter what commitment. Number 3, identify your potential obstacles and create specific workarounds for each one. Number 4, select an accountability method that energizes you rather than depletes you. And number 5, commit to 30 days to just focus on this habit before adding another one. Remember, as high-achieving women, we excel at mastering complex systems. Our careers prove that. But with personal habits, simpler is actually more effective. The magic isn't in complexity, but in consistency. Your success or failure with habits isn't a statement about your worth or ability. It's simply feedback about your systems. If a habit isn't sticking, your system needs adjustment, not your level of commitment or discipline. Now, the women I admire most aren't those who do everything perfectly. They're the ones who've built resilient systems that bend, but don't break when life gets chaotic. They've aligned these daily habits with their deepest values, not just their professional goals. You've already proven that you have extraordinary capacity through your professional achievements. Now it's time to direct some of that brilliance towards building habits that support your whole self. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. The highest form of self-respect is creating a life that doesn't require you to escape from it. Strategic habits are how we build that life, one small decision at a time. Now, I'd love to hear which habit you're going to focus on first. Drop me a message on Instagram. And next week, we'll be talking with another incredible guest. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Until then, remember, you're not just here to slay your career, you're here to enslay your entire life. Take care of the woman behind the achievements and watch how much more expansive your impact becomes. That's all for today's episode of Slay. Stay tuned for more empowering discussions on female health, fitness and life. You can follow me at Louise Hazel on social media and check out the Slay brand now at Slay Athletic Club. You can subscribe to the Slay podcast on YouTube and leave us a comment. And you can also get fit at home using the Slay app. You can download that now for free from our app store to join our online community. And if you're in Los Angeles, then on Saturdays, come and join us at the Hollywood Bowl for our Slay Athletic Club, our new empowering run club for women. We'll be there 9:30 every Saturday. See you there.